We decided to test PC in a couple of titles, those being Fortnite, Apex Legends, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Minecraft. First up in Fortnite on performance mode, we got the results that, well, we expected, getting 144 plus FPS in Fortnite. This is a 144Hz capable setup. Yes, there are some dips below 100 here and there, but that i3-10100F is definitely carrying the show here. When you do run on lower settings, most of the time you're relying much more on the CPU than you are the GPU, and considering that we have some headroom to upgrade the GPU in the future, we can really see that i3 stretch its legs and carry us into the 100 plus FPS mark in Fortnite. That would be the exact same situation in a game like Valorant, CSGO, Rocket League, anything like that. You should have no problems getting a high refresh rate gaming experience for $450, regardless of what most people believe when they see a build with an RX 460. Next up in Apex Legends on low settings at 1080p, we average about 60 plus FPS. Now Apex Legends is much more GPU dependent than games like Fortnite and other esports titles. It does rely much more on a graphics card, as you can see with the RX 460 being pinged basically at 100% the entire time. So you might want to drop down to something like 1600 by 900 to maintain a really good 60 FPS. But as you can see in an arenas mode at 1080p, we didn't dip below 60. It stayed pretty solid and was a pretty playable experience. But if you want to aim for those higher numbers, you could drop down to 1600 by 900 and probably get an average of like 80 to 90 FPS and have a much smoother experience, while be it sacrificing some quality. Next up in Shadow of the Tomb Raider on low settings using the built-in benchmark, this is where we start to see the downfall of this PC, only averaging 39 FPS. The RX 460 is a good budget card. It's good for the aforementioned games like Apex Legends, Fortnite, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO, all those games. It will run at 1080p 60 FPS, but you're not going to be diving into high-end esports titles, but that's fine. The 460 is kind of a placeholder card. You can easily upgrade to something like an RTX 2060, 3060 with this i3 or an RX 6600 and have a very high-end capable gaming PC to play games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider or other AAA titles like Halo Infinite, and be able to do that easily with just a GPU upgrade in the future. So that's something to keep in mind. This build is very future-proof in the terms that you can upgrade it easily and you get some good performance now without having to go the, well, pre-built route or have to go with like a laptop that is stuck with what hardware you get. And last but certainly not least is Minecraft at 1080p on high settings. We got 100 plus FPS. In recap, this PC is really good for the money. The RX 460 is readily available between $80 to $100. If you do happen to have to buy it at more than $100, I wouldn't spend much more than $130, because at that point, you're really not getting good value for money, and you're better off just saving up for something like a Ryzen 5 5600G APU system, and then slapping in a graphics card later. Something to keep in mind, but in recap, really awesome PC for the money. Hopefully this build guide was very useful for you all throughout 2022, and maybe, just maybe, this build guide won't be super viable at the end of the year, because graphics card prices are much more affordable, and if that's the case, of course, we'll be having some updated guides on the channel, and they'll probably be linked down below if this video does very well. So now we finished the benchmarking section of today's video. How to bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.